What they gon' remember me by? I put my heart in the grind. I gotta pass the torch. Can't let my legacy die. What they gon' remember me by? I put my heart in the grind. I gotta pass the torch. Can't let my legacy die.
Before I'm done, I really hope to leave a legacy. Hope the people that I love will all remember me. I pray that everything I've done, it ain't in vain, man. I just want my family blessed and not in pain.
Right, so we're going to talk tonight about protect your head. I think this is important. You're going to see what we're talking about here. We're going to go into Ephesians chapter 6, which in my opinion is a very, very powerful chapter in the Bible. Goes all into God giving us detail about this battle that we all have going on. Putting on that full armor of God every single day, because there's something going on that maybe we can't see with the physical eye, right? But it's out there and it's real and needs to be talked about. So tonight we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read that first part of scripture to you on the top. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 12 out of the New King James Version. It says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." It's God letting us know right there that there's a battle going on here. That life is a battle. I'm fully convinced that every single person in this room is going through some sort of battle right now. Might be different for each of us what we're fighting against. All right, but the important thing is that we need to recognize what the battle is actually against. And sometimes we think that we're fighting against what we see. Right, like we think that the battle is against a person, right, that's coming against us or we're butting heads with. Right, we're not fighting a person. We think sometimes our battle is against drugs and alcohol, the physical substances. Right, it's deeper than that. There's more to it. We're not fighting with our spouse or our kids or fighting against a job or other people in this world. No, there's something deeper here. God tells us specifically it's not flesh and blood we're fighting against. There's something out there that's operating in the evil sense of the supernatural world. There's evil spirits out there that are in a battle with us. And like any war that's ever occurred in the history of this planet, any war is spent when the two sides are coming against each other, right? They focus on the enemy. They're trying to learn about the enemy, and so they need to know what the enemy's purpose is and what the enemy's tactics are. Number one on this sheet right here, guys, we need to recognize that with every blessing there is a battle. And the enemy's main job is to cause us to fall and to derail what God has in store for us by any means necessary. I truly believe that. That enemy is out there. He's watching each and every one of us. He sees us starting to move closer to God. He sees us starting to step into a better life, and that gets his attention. He don't like that. Right? So his job, his number one purpose is to come at every single one of us in this room. And first he wants to make us fall. Right? And he wants to do anything he can to derail us on this journey that we're on. He wants to stop us from stepping in to exactly what God has in store for us, because he knows it's something huge for each and every one of us. That's the purpose of the enemy. He wants to see us fall, and he wants to stop us from moving forward in life. We got to recognize that. So that's why all these other little things keep coming at us that we think it's in front of us that we're fighting against. No, it's this spiritual battle that every single one of us are in. And the tactics that the enemy uses, oh man, we could talk about this one all night. And what's funny about this one is that this is going to be different for each and every one of us in here, because the enemy studies us, right? And he throws stuff at us, and he sees what gets each of us, and he's going to keep coming with those same attacks over and over again. So right now, I can go on for hours about the tactics that the enemy uses in my life. Now, the enemy likes to attack me right in my home. Likes to split up our family unit that we have going on, because he knows that if I could stop the ministry that's going on in the house, then I can stop the ministry that's going on to all other places. Right? The enemy comes against me in the form of people trying to stop me or say whatever that they say about me. And the enemy's going to throw these different distractions in my life. Over a little while of doing this, I've identified the things that the enemy is doing against me, because it's nothing new. It's the same attacks over and over and over again. And so I'm asking you, so right now, you got to start keeping an eye out for this and start seeing something that may not be physically present in front of you, but you got to start seeing, man, that same coworker is always trying me every time I go to work. Every time I show up, he's got something slick to say, and it's this fight over and over again. Man, we're not fighting against that guy. That's the enemy trying to make you miserable and upset every single day of your life while you're at your job and try to get you to do something stupid to ruin your testimony. I don't know what it is, man. I think we talk about it every time in early sobriety, right? You're never going to get offered free drugs and alcohol until you're trying to be sober. And let you try to be sober and do the right thing for a minute, then all of a sudden someone's crossing your path, or someone's hitting you up on Facebook, or whatever it is. There they are. They at the corner store. What's up? Where you been? You need my number again? Guys, we got to recognize this stuff. These are the tactics that the enemy are using against us to get us to fall and to stop us from moving forward to what God has in store for us. We gotta see this. And we also got to see that in order to stand, like God is telling us, there's some things that we're going to need to do. Look at what he says in those first verses. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. As God's saying, it's going to take a few actions on our part. We're going to need to put on this armor every single day so that we can be best prepared to fight this battle that God knows is coming our way every single day. And when we do that, then we're going to get the true power of God in our life. And he's going to show up and he's going to help us to fight these battles. And there's nothing that can ever come against us. It's a very important part, guys, and not just sitting back. If we were in a real war, if someone was threatening your family or coming against your kids or your spouse or whatever, you wouldn't just kick back and be like, oh, let's see what they attack us with today. No, if you knew what was coming, you would be ready. You would be taking action. You would prepare yourself, bring some weapons with you. They're not going to attack my family today. We got to start taking the same approach in life. We know these attacks are coming our way. And so, man, every single morning, man, we need to get ready. We need to have this armor on us. We need to get in that relationship with God every single day so we can tap into his power. So it's that we can have that when we tap into that in the morning, you're going to find that we're going to be able to handle anything that happens during the day so much better. But if we go days without putting on that armor and we miss it, watch these attacks just come left and right and watch the effectiveness that those start to have in our life. But that's huge. Number 2, guys, there are some things that we can do to be strong in the Lord and operate in the full power of his might. And in order to operate in the full power of his might, we need to have his power in our life. I believe there's so many people that are missing this. I believe that there's so many people, man, amazing. Thank God they're going to heaven. They believe in Jesus. They believe that there's an afterlife. They believe that God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins and rose again in 3 days and paid that ultimate penalty for us. Right? And we're going to go to heaven when we pass on from this life, and we're going to see our loved ones up there. That's absolutely amazing. One of the most important decisions that you could ever make, right? But yet, that can happen and we could still live this defeated life down here on earth and just seem like we're always upset and always struggling to that point when we finally go. Right? That's not what God had intended for us. No, he wants us to know, yes, we have this afterlife. You're going to spend eternity with me. But right now, I have given you some few simple instructions in this book that you can tap into my power right here, right now. And it doesn't matter what the enemy throws at us, you can defeat that. Because God's going to be doing the work for us. He's going to be the one that's going to be fighting the battles for us. And all we're called to do is put on that armor every single day, get in one accord with God, do the next right thing, and watch what's going to happen. You're going to start winning some battles. We're going to start defeating some enemies. And as we go on in this, the next verses coming up after this, I invite you to read the whole chapter later on tonight. You see all the pieces of the armor, and those of you that have been with us for a while, we did a little series on it. Who knows where God's gonna lead us next? But for whatever reason, then tonight He led me to talk about the helmet of salvation. The helmet of salvation. I love this because the helmet protects the head, and the head is the most important part of our body. Right? Like we can lose an arm, we can keep on going without a leg, right? We'll survive, we'll make it, right? But if you lose your head, I think it's over for you. I haven't seen anyone walking around without a head unless there's something I'm missing out there, right? So it's important because the head is also controlling our thoughts and what we know about God. And so God is calling us to protect that. And we got to put the helmet of salvation on every single day. There are truths out there, guys. These weapons are going to do amazing things in our life when we put them on. Look at that next set of scriptures on there. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 through 5 out of the New King James Version says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." He's saying that these weapons, this armor that we're putting on, it's not about fighting a fleshly battle. No, what that is, by doing that every single day, we are going to be mighty in God, and that's what's going to be used for pulling down strongholds. You want freedom in your life? You want victory against addiction? That's what it takes every single day, putting on that armor, getting into a relationship with God every single day, right? And when we do that, right, it's going to cast down everything that it tries to exalt itself above the knowledge of God. And it has to do with our thought life. See, the enemy knows this. The enemy knows this. And so what he does, right, is he knows a truth. I hope we all know what the truth is also, right? When we do exactly what we just said, if we truly believe, right, that everything in the Bible is true and that Jesus came down here and paid the price for each and every one of us, and that we're going to go spend eternity with him. And we believe that from the bottom of our heart. We believe in our heart. We confess it out of our mouths. We are going to spend eternity with God when we pass on from this planet. And so the enemy knows that, and he knows that there's nothing he can do once we take that step. That's already locked in. That's a done deal. So he says, well, I got to make him as miserable as possible while he's down here on earth. And I got to come against and try to derail these truths that he knows. And so then that's when that little thing comes at us called doubt. Right? The enemy tries to put inside of our head, and maybe we start questioning it. Like, well, is that really how it is? How does anybody know that's what really happens when we pass on from here? And I don't know if everything in this book is true. And man, sometimes I just don't know if this is real and if God's actually out there. That's a little thing that the enemy's trying to do. So he's trying to put our feelings inside of our head and trying to manipulate with that. Right? Another thing is like all of us, I hope we all know that like each person in here, y'all are God's special creation. He has a purpose and plan for every single one of us. We all have a different strength. Every single one of us, we are fully equipped to do what God is calling us to do while we're down here on this earth. And so what the enemy is he's going to come try to sneak these feelings in like, man, I don't really feel like I can do anything special like that. I kind of feel like, man, I'm not special. Like, I don't know if I can do that. Right? So what he's trying to do is he's trying to take our feelings and manipulate what we know about God with the way that we feel. Look at number 3 on that sheet, guys. We have to protect our thought life. The enemy is trying to override what we know with how we feel. They say the good news in sobriety, you get your feelings back. Bad news in sobriety, you get your feelings back. I think all of us, if you're anything like me, right, we spent so much time out there trying not to feel. Because we did so many bad things along the way, and we hurt so many people in the process, and we let so many people down that we didn't want to think or feel anything about that guilt and shame that we carried around. So we did whatever we had to do to turn those feelings off, so we didn't have to think about it. We didn't have to experience anything like that. And now all of a sudden we get sober, and now that whole rush of feelings that we've been subduing for years is just right back on us. And we're feeling all over the place, right? All of our emotions are everywhere. And just like it says, right, we got to bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Our feelings must be brought into captivity as well. And this is, again, one of those fine line subjects we love talking about, because this is going to take some balance right here, guys. This is going to take some balance, because first and foremost, especially coming into the beginning of this, we have to be able to express our feelings and let somebody else know where we're at. We can't just listen to this message and be like, oh, well, they said we're supposed to keep our feelings in captivity. So I'm feeling hurt, and I'm feeling pain, I'm feeling depressed, and I'm feeling like using, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it. I'm just going to put a smile on and say, no, everything's great. It's my turn to share. Life is good. Everything's going phenomenal. Right? No, guys, we got to acknowledge our feelings. We got to be able to share those with somebody else so they can help us through that. Right? But see, the only problem with that is if we let it go on year after year, right? It can turn into something different. Like, it can become a habit where we constantly vent all the time, and we're letting the situations of life control us. And it's like every single time I'm going to see how I'm feeling first to determine how I actually am. And see, if we start doing that, the problem with that is there's going to be a lot of things that we don't feel like doing. Because it's so easy to, well, I'm going to wake up today. Well, I don't feel like waking up today. I don't feel like getting ready. I don't feel like going to work today. I don't feel like going to that meeting after work because I'm tired. I don't feel like praying because I had so many things go on today. And we can get into this cycle where we're just letting our feelings dictate how our life actually is. I got news for all of us in this room tonight. Feelings are not facts, guys. Feelings are not facts. All right, this is just the enemy trying to get us to feel a certain way so he can derail the truths that we know God has for us in our life. And it's so easy to get caught up in this. Right? We can get in this habit where we're just yelling at our kids all the time. They're not doing what we said they're supposed to do, right? And we just start feeling like yelling at them, so I'm going to start yelling. And then we could turn it into our spouse. Man, they've been doing the same thing over and over again, and I just feel like going off on them every time I see them. Right? Circumstances, the same circumstances can come at us year after year, again and again, and we let our circumstances just make us feel a certain type of way. And I just can't believe I'm so angry, I'm so upset, I'm so depressed. Our feelings can start to run our life if we're not careful about this. Guys, we gotta go to God's truths, right? There's truths out there. especially when we're dealing with people and circumstances. First of all, man, you know what? Sometimes we got to give other people the benefit of the doubt, right? Maybe that person was having a horrible day. Maybe they lost a loved one. Maybe they went through something really bad and they're miserable inside, and now they're taking it out on me. And I know that God's calling me, right, to be there for my spouse, to be there for my kids, to be there for my fellow man. So instead of feeling like I'm going to overreact and go off on that person when they try me, I'm going to know that God's giving me a way out of this. I'm going to pray to him and say, God, help me with this situation. I don't want to operate out of my feelings and go off on this person. I need you to help me out. Give them a little slack. We got to know, guys, that when these circumstances continue to come against us and make us feel a certain type of way, we got to know, God, this is just temporary. I know these circumstances are just temporary. I know there's something else that's going to come on the other side of this storm. I must be in this, must be happening to teach me something out of it, Lord. So, God, help me through these circumstances that I'm in and help me to get what you're trying to show me in this season that I'm in right now. We got to watch these feelings, guys, and I want to show you why the knowledge of God is so important to be able to win this battle against addiction, to win any battle that we're going to go through in life. I was researching some things this week and got led to these stories about when our country had slaves here in the South. There was these slave holders, right? They made it a point to make sure that none of the slaves would get taught how to read. I thought that was interesting when I heard that. Why would they do something like that? And I read in one of the sites on the internet said the ignorance of the slaves was considered necessary to the security of the evil slaveholders. Not only did owners fear the spread of specifically abolitionist materials, they did not want slaves to question their authority. Thus, reading was prevented at all costs. Because they knew, right, if they would start to be able to, if they didn't read, right, then they wouldn't be able to learn anything. And if they didn't learn anything, then they wouldn't have any knowledge. Right? And if they didn't have any knowledge of what was going on in the world and that they could actually band together and there was things happening that would allow them to be free, then they could be slaves for the rest of their life. I thought that was powerful. There was even a point where their actually slaves were free, but because they couldn't read, they couldn't hear any of this, they didn't have the knowledge that it was over, right? They were still living as slaves. Because they didn't have that knowledge that there was something better out there for them. A shift could have happened in their life if they only would have learned, right, that there was people out there that wanted to help them out of that they could band together and override against the slave owners and become free. A huge shift could have happened in their life and finally did, thank God. But number 4 on that sheet on the back, I truly believe that a shift will start to occur in our life as we continue to grow in the knowledge and truth of God. Amen. Operating in what we know about God is our ticket to freedom and victory. When they got the knowledge, they became free and they became victorious in life. And I believe that is the same thing for us, guys. As we start to dive deeper into the freedom that God can provide in our life, as we start to learn about the amazing things that God is able to do and how he's just willing and ready to do it in every single one of our lives, man, we're going to start to feel a shift. Things are going to start to happen for us. We're going to start to feel peace. We're going to start to have serenity in our life. We're going to start to see doors open and step into what God has in store for us. This is huge, guys. I put on here, pursue knowledge with the same zeal that you pursue drugs and alcohol. Pursue knowledge with the same zeal that you pursue drugs and alcohol, because I know every single one of us, we went all in for that. And you know what's funny? I guarantee you when you were sitting in middle school or high school or whatever, you didn't just magically know how to shoot up. You didn't know how to smoke. Think back the first time you smoked. You didn't even know what to do, right? You just look at what everyone else is doing and, try to, whatever you got to do. Do I end it? Do I hit it first and then inhale it? We don't know, right? What do we have to do? We had to learn. We had to learn it from somebody, right? We saw what other people were doing. We figured it out ourselves. We would ask questions. Where do you get it from? How do you use it? Go so on and so forth, right? Imagine if we put that same zeal into pursuing knowledge of God and knowledge of sobriety. I'm talking about from all angles, right? First and foremost, diving into that Bible, that amazing book that God gave us instructions on how to live while we're down here on earth and how we can win these battles, how we can put on that full armor every single day, and we can have freedom through Him. Getting knowledge from people who have been preferably seeking God longer than some of us have been alive. That's my favorite people get knowledge. Or people who've been in the church their whole entire life, or pastors, or having a spiritual mentor to be able to share what God has shown them over the years, to be able to learn from them. Not only the Bible, but other inspirational books. There's so many amazing books out there from pastors and different speakers and everything, and just amazing things that we can start to apply. Godly-based principles. We're going to have a bunch of them in the raffle coming up next week. All right? And how about pursuing knowledge from God Himself? Amen. Come on. Going straight to the source. Going straight to the source. And those alone times, man, I'm telling you, you're going to find it amazing if you're just sitting there during your prayer time and you ask God a question and you just sit there and wait for the answer. It's going to be amazing what God's going to show you during those quiet times with Him. Right? By the same token, guys, we got to pursue knowledge of sobriety. I promise you, recovery isn't just trying not to use and going to a couple meetings, right? It's so much more than that. Right? The books that God gave us through there, the AA book, I'm sure the NA book too, man, there's so much knowledge that can be gained from those. There's so many godly-based principles. You're going to see, read the AA book and read the Bible, it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's about changing that old person. It's about getting closer in relationship with God, getting closer in relationship to our fellow man, and things that we should do every single day to maintain that. Reading the 12 and 12 step book. Amazing things that can be gained out of that. And also getting around people that have long-term sobriety, right, to be able to give us some wisdom and some tips of things that they learned along the way. And when they encounter these same situations that we encounter, some suggestions on some tools that they can use to get through that. That's huge, guys. I truly believe that if we start doing that, we're going to start seeing a shift in our life. We're going to start seeing things moving and doors start opening and just stepping into the full serenity, that peace, that joy that only God can provide for us, and live a much better life than we ever have up to this point.